The stigma of suicide. The stigma of suicide and my safe haven events, I guess the question for most people out there is why? Obviously, most of you know the story of my son, Jason. At age 13, on a Tuesday morning, getting ready for school, walked upstairs and shot himself. For the last 8 years, that has been a huge motivation for me to, number one, find out why, which is a question we can never answer. But number two, how can we really start prevention? There are so many levels where suicide needs to be addressed: the mental illness, the stress of the world, the pressure on our young children. For me, the most relevant and quickest way is to share our stories. I see our society as part of one huge tree. Doesn't matter what part of the planet you're in, doesn't matter what skin color you are, doesn't matter what beliefs or political views you have. We are all together in one space. That is the tree, and we are the leaves on that tree. And I see our stories as the gentle breeze that makes us all dance. How can we prevent by telling our stories? I'll tell you how. Stigma of suicide. The word has such a huge stigma that it creates fear. Creates fear because we don't understand it. If you don't understand something, you're afraid of it. Hearing the word suicide, you instantly think of darkness. That's been brought on by history, by religion, by not understanding. Let's take a star athlete, for example, the kid that's getting straight A's, the one that's been playing sports for years, the one that probably is going to go on to make a career of it. 5 days a week, they have different activities. 5 days a week, they have homework. 5 days a week, their parents are looking to them for a future. As parents, we want the best for our children, but are we putting all of that pressure on our kids? And can they handle it? On top of the pressure of what's happening in our world today, the social media, the hurry up and go. At what point are our children, and even us as adults, feeling like we can't do it anymore? And if we say we can't do it anymore, does that mean we are instantly crazy, that we need mental health intervention? Or are we just pushed to a point in our lives where we're sitting down and saying, I can't take it anymore. I can't do this. How do I get out of it? So we take these young kids that are thriving and doing well. My son, perfect example. How do they look at us and say, Mom and Dad, I can't do this anymore? How do they look at their counselor and say, I can't do this anymore, or their teacher? They feel that they can't, mainly because of the stigma, for the fear of how they will be judged and looked at afterward. You know you're not going to look at that child the same way. You know you're not going to look at your coworker or friend, or even a stranger the same way if they came to you and said, I don't think I want to be here anymore. I don't want to be alive. So by telling our stories, by sharing that with the world, they will no longer feel alone. And in that creation of a space, whether it be social media or what I would like to have as a safe haven event, there's this sense of normalcy, because it's okay not to be okay. So imagine that young athlete waking up one morning, getting ready for school, regardless of what's happening in the house, regardless of how well or not well they're doing in school, or how many friends they have, or what's planned in the future. That morning, they can't take it. They have nowhere to turn. They have no one to talk to. They are afraid. But they did hear about this one particular space, this one event where every single person who is attending has either wanted to commit suicide or has been affected by someone that took their own life. And if they went to that event, they know for a fact that anything they said at that event would not be judged. They would just be heard. Arriving at a place where there's hundreds of people who feel the same way and watching those on stage telling their stories, like a mother whose son went upstairs and shot himself and who took his last breath while she was working on him, and how desperately that mother would hope to have changed that situation if he just would have told her, "Mom, I can't take it anymore. I want to take my own life." If they heard these stories of other people who actually attempted suicide and survived, and then leaving that event with the option of maybe therapists, exchanging numbers, sticking together and telling our stories, they will feel safe in talking about the word suicide, thereby creating prevention in its quickest and most simple form, by sharing, by connecting, by communicating, and coming together as leaves on the same tree and dancing. Tenacious T, eradicating the stigma of suicide, out.